Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Amanda Kaufman Show with another double Kaufman episode. You've got me, Rebecca, here co-hosting with the lovely Miss Amanda.
Hello, welcome back. You're doing great.
Oh my goodness, we are riffing, guys. So if you like these episodes, if you're enjoying the content, please do let us know. We really want your feedback. This is a massive experiment. We are walking the talk when we talk about experimenting in your business. So any feedback you got, positive, maybe negative, whatever, just give it to us. We're so
Just
stoked
be
to hear what you
nice.
guys think.
Just be
You
nice. You
can give
control us.
negative
Just be nice.
feedback in a nice way. It's
That's
fine.
right.
It's cool. But okay, jumping into the episode, guys, we were kind of just chatting and we came up with this concept of getting past the launch in your business. Because the launch is so exciting, whether it's your first time opening up the business point blank, if you're launching a new product, if you're trying something different with a new audience, if you're maybe speaking for the first time, there's so much fun energy that comes from launching something new. And candidly, what is the energy of having a business that's 3 years in, 5 years in, 10 years in? And how do we keep that spark and that romance of it alive? Was kind of
So
my
good.
thinking. So Amanda, how long have you been in business for? In entrepreneurship in general?
In entrepreneurship, I'm on year 9 and business in general, 19. So I spent the first 10 years
Whoa.
of my career in business, but it was in a corporate capacity. I was doing a consulting for a pretty big consulting firm. So that was cool because I got to work in a bunch of different industries. But yeah, I went out on my own 9 years ago.
And when you think about what you thought entrepreneurship was going to be, were you right? Were you at all able to predict what your life is like today?
God, it is different. It is different and it is better in a lot of respects. There were challenges I never could have anticipated. And yeah, I don't think I would trade it for a dang thing. And I I say it's better because when I first became an entrepreneur, I very much looked at it as an escape route, which I can say comfortably now. I've done my work. However, at the time I probably couldn't have told you that. I just knew that I had this desire to impact people in a particular and specific way. And I knew that the job that I was in, I would maybe still get to do it on the side because that's really how I started, but I would never be able to have that be the main thing. And so that was coaching, by the way, at the time. It was high performance personal coaching was my first love of entrepreneurship. And then what ended up happening is as much as I love coaching, and I love coaching, I love entrepreneurship more. So yeah, I'm really into it. I think about it all the time. I think about it, read about it, watch about it. It's fascinating to me because I think business is just this incredible intersection of, sociology and society and obviously economics, but psychology too. And so I get to nerd out all the time.
That's amazing. Well, and it sounds like you still have so much energy when it comes to the business. You don't seem like you're just showing up to that 9 to 5 kind of vibe. You are genuinely really invested still. Has that always been the case in your business? Have there been seasons when you're less in love with it? Or how has that been for you?
I have had Okay, so when I compare the two experiences of being in corporate versus being in entrepreneurship, corporate definitely came with its challenges. I was scared of different things. And then when I became an entrepreneur, I was challenged by everything about it. What's so interesting is wherever you go, there you are. You've probably heard that before, right? So
100%.
when I left corporate America, I had this idea that I was going to somehow walk into this utopian version of society where, things were more fair when it came to gender dynamics, that I would be more respected, as a woman in business. Da, 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 da. And what I learned was what's happening in corporate is really a reflection of what's happening in society. And it's a little like getting off of a cruise ship and climbing into a rowboat. Right. So when you're
Okay.
an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, you're on this little dinghy and you're so you can cut corners really fast. It's dynamic that way. But I would say that the exposure to the waves of the reality of the world is much more, much more felt when you are a
Amplified?
small business owner. And I think I was insulated and protected from a lot of things in corporate that I didn't know to appreciate at the time.
It. I don't know. I kind of wanted to know about like what it feels like in that like honeymoon phase of your business. Like when everything's kind of all new and like you're trying new things, you're excited about like new products or new avenues of generating income versus, you know, when you kind of have things dialed into a level. Like we're always working on stuff, we're always improving, but like your day to day now has to feel a whole lot more like I do this and then I do that and then I do this and then I do that? Or is that just like a total misrepresentation on my side?
Would agree that there's a level of stability that's come with wisdom.
Mm. Mhm.
So what I mean by that is just like yes, my life is much more dynamic as an entrepreneur than it ever would have been as a corporate employee. I do have to flex and respond still like a lot more. When you're new though, when you're new, you don't know better. So you're like ignorance on fire and you're just like, "Hey, the world's my oyster." And that naivete is just incredible because you haven't actually encountered reality yet. And when you do encounter reality for the first time, it can be straight up rude. And like, so for example, I remember in my first year or so, I was like, I'm on my way. I'm a new coach. Look out, world. Here I come. And I thought I was being like so clever, learning like advertising and marketing and like all these things that other people didn't know. And I was like, oh, yay, I'm so special about that. So like that feels good to know things that other people don't know, just by the way. So then I go and I'm like, I'm going to hire this agency and they're going to build me a funnel and they're going to run me some advertising and it's going to be great. And so we did. And it was less than mid in terms of it was ugly. I don't even know how they picked those colors. I still, to this day, I'm like, I think they might have been colorblind, like not joking. And then I was doing videos and I guess I had this expectation that doing video was going to be crazy easy. And the thing is that for the prior like decade before all of this was happening, I like avoided having my photo taken, much less doing video. So I was surprised that I would run out of breath. I was surprised that I looked heavier on camera than I did in real life, I thought. I don't know. There's like a whole dysmorphia thing that can happen there. And even just handling the dang videos, like I thought that I'd turn the camera on, smile, and be like myself, and then people would love me because now, of course, they know about me, and then everything would be great, like look out, millions of fans, here we come, and that's not what happened. We ran
That's weird.
the ad spend. The first comment I ever got on a paid ad, which by the way, I'm over it, but the first comment I ever got was, "This woman looks like she feeds her cats people food." Now, I think it was an
That's
insult.
just an
I honestly
oddly
still
specific
don't know what it
comment.
means. It's such a weird thing to say, right? But it was like my first interaction really with the weirdness of the internet and the general public. And I panicked and I was like, oh, advertising is evil. It has mean people on the other side. And so then I completely pulled back from that strategy for a couple of years. And I, of course, blamed the agency. It wasn't their fault, right? Making ugly pages is not a crime, people, but like it was bad. It was a smoking disaster. So what happens is like we have our first disaster, whatever it is, whether it's an embarrassment at a public speaking event, or you encounter somebody who's just straight up rude or trolling on the internet, but we start experiencing the reality of the real world. People are less excited about what you have to offer than you want them to be. They require more explanation. People get more confused. Like there's all these obstacles that show up and you're like, what the hell? Like I'm being authentic. I'm doing this thing that's good for the world. Why does the world not want me? Right? And it kind of moves into this whole crisis around I'm just being real. Like after you've really launched the thing, you've got some initial success. The only thing you want to do after that is have more success. But the thing is the more success you get, the more resistance you encounter. And if you're not ready for it,
Mm.
it can be really debilitating. So to your question about like, you're pretty high energy. Like, are you always like this? And I'm like, no, right? Because anytime I hit a new resistance that I wasn't anticipating, even at every level, there's the saying like new level, new devil. Nowadays, if somebody
Mhm.
said something rude on the internet, please don't, right? Do better. But like if people do leave something that's like mean or nasty, I'm now more attuned to being able to deal with that, and I don't make so much meaning out of it that I used to. But yeah, like I think part of the sustainment is the desire to continuously grow while simultaneously starting to face the resistance that is reality, and then finding a way to like still stay connected to your goals even with those setbacks.
1,000%. Because in my experience and like my exposure to entrepreneurs and things like that, I feel like there really are almost two camps, right? Because I don't think anyone goes into entrepreneurship knowing exactly what this beast is. Like, even if you grew up with your parents being entrepreneurs like we did, like, you don't know what that feels like firsthand until you do it. You know what I mean? And so I feel like there's like the entrepreneur that has that longevity, that has the staying power, that's able to pivot and go through those resistances and still grow. And then there's the person who maybe had that initial success and is realizing what entrepreneurship actually is and finds out that it's not for them. You know what I mean? More of that flash in the pan kind of experience. Do you find that there is like a commonality between the people who have that higher longevity level that are able to like really sustain and make this something that is additive to their life in the long term?
Oh wow. Thank you for asking that question. I've never been asked that. I think that some of the thread that I see in people that have real staying power, I notice a much higher resiliency in terms of tolerance for pain. They will endure and endure and endure. Now, I think that, similar to your frame earlier, there's kind of two ways of enduring pain. There's enduring pain as in like endlessly tolerating it and doing nothing to relieve it. And then what I'm really talking about is tolerating the pain because of the belief in a payoff on the other side of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's painful to be wrong. It just sucks. We don't like it as human beings. And if you're going to get good, you're going to need to test things. And when you find the thing that wins, it automatically means you were wrong before. So having that ability to humble yourself, I would say, is the second big thread. Is there even the most egotistically expressive person that you've seen online, if they have like a lot of staying power, I can tell you that when you talk to the person, like for real, over dinner or a beverage or whatever, they have this humbleness to them, even if they've got a big personality, right? And I think that that comes from being knocked down and getting back up and being knocked down and getting back up and like doing that so many times. You realize that like you actually don't control as much as you think you do every time that happens. And so that humbleness, like to be humble means to be grounded to the earth. And so you can be loud and gregarious and you can have like this really extroverted sort of presentation and still be a really humble character. And I think that that's a more subtle trait, and it's a very powerful trait because it means that that person is going to be steady in a storm, and it means like that person is going to persevere, right? So they have really high perseverance. I think the other thread that I've noticed among the extremely successful people over the very long term is their relationships. So they surround themselves with an inner circle that has their back. And I think one of the things that I learned in my journey so far, I mean, I'm 9 years in, haven't had my 7-figure year yet, but we've done, pretty well, pretty well, multiple 6 figures for years. And the thing that I noticed is like I had a peak year where it was like we did over $500,000 and we were really, really cooking, and we tripped. Right? We tripped and fell. And we tripped and fell over squeaky loud processes, being overextended in our time and our energy. Like there was a whole big drama attached to it. So the only thing that I could do to make sure that we were still here was to scale back. And boy, I tell you, when I scaled back, it revealed very freaking quickly who was in my inner circle. Hello. And who was actually not, who was there just because they thought they could get a little more out. And so what I noticed about people that have real longevity is they tend to have a pretty tight inner circle, as in it's not easy to penetrate and get into. But once you're in and once you have that support system, like I can't think of somebody who's been in the game for a long time who doesn't have a number 2, 3, or 4 that's like shoring them up. right? And not because they're a victim and not because they have to be rescued, but because you need those confidants. You need those people. And I think, like, getting back to the whole humble and grounded thing, real friends are going to ask you to remove your head from your ass. And they're going to do it with candor, and they're going to do it with kindness. And if you insist on, like, I think a really unsuccessful behavior is to surround yourself with sycophants. So what I mean by that is, like, surrounding yourself with people who are just like, oh, what you do, like, everything you do is just like so
Yes,
perfect. There's
man.
nothing you can do wrong. Like the yes man. Exactly. It's like, those people, man, like, they need so much help with personal growth development and agency. But I think as a leader, it can feel really good to have people around you tell you that you're so perfect and amazing all the time. But when the shit actually hits the fan, those yes men become, who were you? And they're probably not going to be somebody who's going to be able to offer something meaningful to you in a time of trial. And yeah, so I think that's like three things. Those are big things. Those are really big things. Those are character traits you have to cultivate.
1,000%. 1,000%. And I think that what the initial, just bringing it back to relationships, because I think it's massive for people who want to do anything hard for a long time, is
It's
like,
huge.
the people that you initially meet are probably not going to be those people. Because, like, at least in my experience, it's been initially you meet people who are just like you. They're at the same level, they're trying the same stuff with varying levels of commitment and discipline. And then you meet people who are, getting higher to your discipline level, so on and so forth. But like you say, it's those people who are willing to lovingly ask questions, I think, is where you really level up in terms of your inner circle, because you're not going to be right all the time. You're not going to have the right thought process. You're not going to be on this is it. And I think that's why our relationship works so well. And this is why, like, as siblings, obviously, but also, like, in the context of me supporting you in your business, is you are the boss at the end of the day. I'm never going to tell you not to do something. I don't have the power to do that. But I will always lovingly ask the question, be like, so have you thought of XYZ thing?
Yeah,
You know?
I often talk with my clients about this idea of lay pause, which is my French way of saying just take a sec, right? So lay pause. And I think the thing is when you have the right relationships around you, it does build in lay pause, because it can be really hard when, especially if you're really excited about what you're doing, or you're nervous about what's happening, or you're scared and you're just like, it's easier to stay in reaction and to be that Tasmanian devil that we've talked about before. To self-recognize a pause is required can sometimes be really challenging. And so that inner circle, being able to just ask the question, right? They're not trying to compromise your freedom. They're just like, I'm curious. What are your thoughts about this? Right. And it does just build in lay pause. It's pretty cool. Is my biggest secret to having some of the most incredible relationships in my life, including my sister, but in addition to, is to generously have the same level of presence, right? Like, really be somebody who's not critical of your friends, but rather a cheerleader of your friends, and being willing to ask those questions that they may be scared to ask themselves or say out loud. And you're going to find out pretty quickly who's up for it and who's putting on a show. Right. And yeah, so just look for the real ones, because you're only going to find a few. And once you find, like, hold them close.
Take care of them. Yeah.
Take care of
If
them.
you want to have that village, you got to be a villager too, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Okay, cool. So, I mean, for me, the biggest takeaways from this is, if you want longevity, it's being able to do things that are hard consistently and being wrong a lot. But it sounds like really being conscious of that end goal and, like, knowing what you're doing it all for. And then having that tribe, that village around you that really gets it and is not only just going to say, yes, you're amazing, but also hold you accountable and help you push yourself at the end of the day. Is there anything else that you're really thinking is important for that longevity moment?
There's this great clip that I've seen for years that Tom Hanks shared, where he said, when things are really bad, just remember this too shall pass. And when things are really good, just remember this too shall pass, right? And everybody around the table laughing. And I think it's really true. So, like, when you're at the height of a moment and you're winning all the awards and you're getting all the accolades and all the opportunities, and it's like, there's nothing I can do that's going to go wrong. just like really feel that moment and be in it for sure, and never make mistake of thinking that that's how it's always going to be, right? But it's also the other side. So when you're faced with the hardest decisions that you have to make in your business, and the hardest decisions are really the thing that's between bad and worse than that, and you have to make those decisions sometimes. And often as a business owner, you have to decide to let things go. And so when you're in those moments and you're feeling disappointed that that's a decision you have to make, or that you couldn't come up with a better solution than the one that you had, just remember, this too shall pass. It's not going to last forever. So, as much as you can, lean into the journey. And if you're more about the journey than you are about the destination, you're going to be in this for a long time.
Love it. Well, that is what we have for you for today's episode, guys. If you loved it, let us know with your comments. Let us know with a review. If you have anything that you want us to dive deeper on, let us know that too. And yeah, we really enjoyed this one. So we will see you guys next time.